Welcome to Porch Play Chat, sponsored by the American Association for the Child's Right to Play, or more affectionately titled IPA USA. IPA USA is the USA affiliate of the International Play Association, and you can find all the information on IPA World and IPA USA by going to ipausa.org. Up in that top right-hand corner, you can be a friend on our Facebook page, follow us on our YouTube channel, be a friend on, I think it's be a friend on our Facebook page, follow us on the YouTube channel, and do something on our Instagram, which I can't remember. But then we also have our Spotify account up, which you can sign up for free. All the Porch Play Chats, all 200 of them, are on our YouTube channel that you can access, but we're also moving them into the Spotify podcast system. So there's, I think, 50 or 60 of the 200 up there already. So you can join Spotify for free and have them there. So Porch Play Chats are just one of the ways that IPA USA advocates for the child's right to play. I'm Deb Lawrence, and I'm president of IPA USA. With me on the porch is Jennifer McCarville. Hi, Jennifer.
Hello, Deb. I'm so happy to be here with you.
Oh, I'm so happy to be with you. Jennifer is the founder and executive director of Marvelously Made, the School for Young Children, a play-focused school in Texas, in San Antonio, where our last conference was. Marvelously Made was established in 2010 as a preschool, and since then has expanded to include children through fourth grade now, or third grade
Eighth
still?
grade now.
Eighth grade now. Oh my goodness, I need to
I
change
know.
that. And our school, that's amazing. Our school's philosophy is based on children's development and brain research, and is a place where children truly learn through play each day. So I'm going to tell you, I have been there and it is incredible. And so today, Jennifer is going to talk about being ready for children. And
Yes.
oh my goodness, that's such a great topic.
Yeah,
So,
it is. I'm
okay, where do
excited.
we begin with that?
I know. Well, being ready starts way before you even start working with the children, right? So, yeah, we definitely value that children, when they come into the environment, they're eager to be here. They want to get started. And so being prepared for that and meeting that developmental need, we are really thoughtful about how we prepare. So there are lots of different components of that, obviously, but excuse me, the first one is that our teachers are really well educated about what children need and understanding those needs and how to respond to them. So that's the first part of being ready, is knowing how children grow and develop, knowing what they need. So your expectations meet their capabilities, right? So a lot of time spent on what does it look like to be a 3-year-old or a 4-year-old or a 7-year-old or a 9-year-old, and then once we've really, and we continually, of course, are learning about that and reading the research that's coming out. But the best research are the children we're working with, right? Like we have it right here. It's this beautiful laboratory, right? So we're watching and being reflective because that's a huge part of being ready. Also, when we're open to observing the children, they will tell us what they need next. And that's how we prepare for the next thing. But here in our school, one of the things that's really important to us is that the environment is completely prepared for the children when they get here. So the children can just do what they need to do. Of course, we now do go through 8th grade. Our 3-year-olds through 3rd grade, that's we call the School for Young Children. And there's a shift in 4th through 8th grade because all of our children go home at noon. And in 4th through 8th grade, they do get their language arts and math at home. So we call that a homeschool hybrid. But anyway, so it looks a little bit different depending on the developmental stage of the children, but it's still prepared no matter what. The activities are on the table, the teachers are available to them, they come in and we meet those first morning needs of connection and time to see your friends and go wherever you want to go. In the preschool, the 3, 4, and 5-year-olds through the kindergarten, especially, they start in our outdoor classrooms. So when they go out, there's science activities on the table. We call them invitations to play, invitations to learn, all those things, provocations. In the field, there are lots of different terms for that. But there's science and art and mathematical thinking challenges and all kinds of activities, block building activities. All of those are incorporated in our outdoor classrooms for the children kindergarten and younger. And then in our first, second, and third grade, those things get brought in the outdoor classroom. Plus, they happen so naturally. So there are activities and experiences ready for them. So when the children come in the morning, they greet their teacher at the gate, say goodbye to their caregiver. They're grown up, and they come on in and they get going. A huge part of being ready is making sure you have plenty of materials. So we can be responsive, to the children. And you've got to think it all the way through. Our children, whenever I'm working with the teachers about preparing curriculum, which is responsive to the child always, but preparing those experiences is think it all the way through. Where are you going to put these things after the children have explored them? Do you need extra water nearby so they can rinse their hands? Do you need extra towels or paper towels, things like that? So we're having summer program right now, and the children are working with baking soda and vinegar and the different reactions they get from lemons and limes and making lemonade and doing all these explorations. It's wonderfully sensory heavy, and they just have it all through the outdoor classroom. But at the table with all the baking soda and the combinations they can make, the teachers have buckets of water and towels hanging so that the children right there, we have shaving cream, they think all the way through, what am I going to need here for cleanup? And the children do get to use those things however they want. So being ready is having that heart position of, I've created these invitations, but they may not at all be used the way that I thought they would be used.
Right.
And that's exciting to me. It's exciting to me to say, here are all of the things, and I wonder what you're going to do. And being ready means also having the answer to that question, right? For those children who come in and they're like, I don't know what to do, because there are a lot of children who are told what to do all the time, and they don't have that freedom of play to jump in and figure it out, right? And so we just, we're prepared with phrases for that. So we'll say things like, oh, I wonder what you'll think of. Gosh, I'm not sure what you'll do with that, but I can't wait to find out. So we do show them how to use tools sometimes. For example, they're using basters in the outdoor classrooms. We'll talk to them about how this is a tool, and you squeeze it and put it in the water and let it go. Because obviously, some of them will figure that out just by trial and error. But the ones who tend to be struggling with that, when they are tools, we will sometimes step in and give them a few tips. But other than that, it's what do you need? So you want to make sure that you are well stocked. I always tell the teachers, if the children can see it, they should have access to it. That doesn't mean it should be necessarily at their eye level, but in our art studio, we have shelves that go up to the ceiling. And so anything they can see on there, they are able to ask for, and the teacher will respect that, will honor that. And then these children just come up with the most amazing ideas when they can just come in and go for it. So there are so many important things to being ready, having enough supplies. If you're worried that it's too much of a financial drain to have gallons of paint outside, then, do that in a controlled environment where maybe it's going to be clear you're not going to need as much paint as if you're squeezing it. Do activities that maybe don't take as much, or extend your paint somehow, right? And of course, then there are some concerns about excess and those types of things. But children are pretty purposeful in their work. So I don't find that to be a problem. But if some material that you want to do something with or offer the children is really expensive, substitute it for something that's not as expensive, because you have to have a lot before you can have a little, right? And so be prepared for that.
And I think the beauty of time and space, which is what you're giving them, right? Time and space, especially for the young ones through kindergarten, when they can greet their teacher at the gate, have a wonderful interaction with with their family member or caregiver,
Right.
and come into a space that they know is made for children,
Mm-hmm.
that has interesting things all around it. And I've been on this playground, it's truly amazing. Has interesting things all around it that they can explore and discover, and know that when they would like something different than maybe what's available, but they can see it, it's it's accessible. Their teacher will get it for them. And so those are all gifts, I think, that you give to children in part of that embracing being ready for children instead of expecting children to be ready for you. And I really think that's the heart of your school. To me, that was what was so beautiful about it. The responsiveness, nurturing, and respect for children in a kind, loving, and supportive environment. Oh my goodness, every child deserves that.
Right, they really do. And I'll tell you a couple of stories about being ready for children. So, a good example of, especially with the younger the child is, you need to have a lot of things. So
Yeah.
if you, I had a parent many years ago. This is when we were just starting out. We were starting our 15th year, but it was in one of our early years. And a parent said, "Oh, I want to get a dump truck for the outdoor classroom because my son loves dump trucks and you don't have any." And I said, "Oh, that's very kind of you, but actually, I'm going to need 15 dump trucks. That's why
Right.
we don't have any, because you can't just put a dump truck out there and with a group of children and think that's going to go well, because we prepare the environment for children, right? And I know that you've got to have several choices." And
Mhm.
so this was an unusual case, but this mama said, "Okay, I'll get you 15," which was amazing. And so she did. And we've always had dump trucks ever since then. We had a time a few years ago when they were wearing out, et cetera, and they were on sale on Amazon for $10 a piece. So
Mhm.
we sent an email out to the parents and said, "Hey, if anybody would like to donate a dump truck to the preschool classroom, we call it the farmhouse, it would be a blessing to us. Here's the link, no pressure." And we got like 30 dump trucks.
Oh my.
So, but for the school budget, that was crazy, right? But for individual families who were able, that worked. It was beautiful. But you've got to have a lot, especially the younger the child.
Mhm.
And so I've also had people say to me, "But if they never have to share, how will they ever learn?" And I just say, "Oh, trouble will come.
Yeah.
Trouble
Trust
comes."
us.
It
Yeah.
does. And so we can't set up environments that challenge the very essence, the core of the emotional and social needs of the child.
Mhm.
So that has happened so many times in my observation, and that we create these classroom environments that don't meet their just fight or flight needs. And then we blame the child for behaviors, or we're going crazy because we don't know how to help them. And the reality is, you have 5 different trucks, not
Mhm.
5 dump trucks that are exactly the same.
Mhm.
And that's the key. And I've talked to people about this in workshops too, when I've done outdoor classroom trainings and indoor classroom trainings, et cetera. And I had one sweet teacher say to me, "But I do have lots of cars." And I
Yeah.
said, "Oh, okay, great." And the had toddlers, and they're just really struggling, and they're always fighting over these cars. And they're the same. And I said, "Tell me what they look like." "Well, there's a blue one and there's a green one." I said, "Oh, they're not the same, you
They're
know?"
not the same. I always tell when my infant in the infant and toddler course that I teach, and we talk about materials and having lots, right? And
Mhm.
I'll say, so you can't just have two red balls in the classroom. If you have 12 toddlers, you need 12 red balls that are exactly the same. And they look at me and say, "Well, won't they get bored with red?" I said, "No."
No, balls are like right in the top 10 original things children need. They never get tired of a ball. It doesn't matter.
Never get tired of a ball. It's
Right.
and but they look at me and say, well, shouldn't we have a variety of colors?" And I said, "Well, have you ever worked with toddlers?" And they'll go, "Well, yeah." And I said, "Is there one particular car that you have in the car thing that they fight over all the time?" "Well, yeah." And I said, "That's because you have one of that one, not 12 of that one." And they go, "Oh." I
Yes.
said, "You're
Yes.
buying them anyway. You might as well buy 12 of the same one."
It's true. And then, of course, this is also part of being ready is you have to have conversations as like, yes, now we're ready. We have everything. And then the trouble will come, right? We have all
Yeah.
the cards are the same because then you're going to have the child who needs all 12 of them.
Yes.
And that's the example of trouble will come. But
Yeah.
if they have all 12 of them, it's a little bit easier to say, oh, Beth really would like one of those trucks when you're finished, or
Mhm.
cars or whatever. And then they feel like as they have time to process that, that they can give one away because they still have 11.
They still have another one.
So they're made good and they work these things out, but we have to be ready with environments that meet them in those developmental places in deep, deep ways. And so they will go and find other things where we have the opportunities to be available. So part of being ready for us also is, since this classroom is completely set up and ready for the children, the teachers are ready to step in with genuine support when there's conflict. Because
Yes.
we're not trying to control this activity. We're all going to sit here and make this whatever. The children are doing the work children need to do. The teachers are able to float through the classroom and be where the children need them to genuinely support them through conflict. So there's so much to that that
Mhm.
allows children to do what they need and allows teachers to do the work, because the work is supporting the social and emotional growth, right?
Mhm.
That's the biggest thing in these early years, of course. And so it's a beautiful thing to be ready well and be ready with your own toolbox of how to
Uh,
support them.
and the other piece that, and I want to talk about when you prepare the environment for the
Yeah.
next day,
Good.
because I think sometimes people go, well, when do I do that? I have to get there really early in the morning and I have to rush and I have to do everything. And then, what if they don't want to do anything that maybe I planned? And so I always go, the first thing I say is, what did you do? Right? What was
Yeah.
available for the thing that nobody was interested in doing?
Right.
And one of my students was doing a study in a curriculum and assessment course, and her study was some scientific principle that they had had no exposure to, right? So there was no prior knowledge there and what to build on. And so
Mhm.
and she said, I did this in my classroom and nobody wanted to do it. And I said, why do you think that is? And she said, well, they weren't interested. And I said, why do you think that is? Why?
Why?
That
You got to
why
ask
question
yourself.
that
Yeah.
constantly came down. And I said, so what standards did you find in the science standards for that particular age group? She said, well, I couldn't find one. And I said, so what is that telling you? Why couldn't you find one? And so we just kept the why. I mean, it was like a 10-minute
Absolutely.
conversation of me asking why. And
Mhm.
finally she said, oh, they're not ready for it. And I said, that's why.
That's why.
And so it is not, it is questioning yourself, not questioning the children sometimes, that
Amen. That's so true. I love that.
that we really have to reflect on. Oh, that, when I was teaching kindergarten, I would think some children were ready for a particular thing and
Mhm.
they were not. And so, I spent time, I planned, I'd been thoughtful, I gathered materials, and nobody had to do it. It was just
Right.
available,
Sure.
but nobody went. And so at the end of the day, I would say, well, that was interesting. Should I try that again tomorrow? And I did. And I
Mhm.
try it again and see if anybody went there, and nobody would go there. And then I would have to say to myself, maybe I need to put this away and bring it back out in 3 or 4 months. And it was amazing. What could I bring out now that might get them to this in 3 or 4 months? And so it was that reflection piece of not being upset or angry or frustrated that they didn't do it, but asking yourself why,
Right.
why didn't
And
they do
I do when I hire people, when we're talking in our trainings, because what we're doing here in this area, it's really unheard of, and we've just kind of been made our way by following the why and what do children need. And okay, we're not giving them what they need. And so whose problem is that? Oh, that's my problem. So I tell the teachers, you have to be less egocentric than children to work here. Like
Mhm.
you can't, it can't be hard for you to question and reflect and say, oh, that's what I would do differently next time, right? Um, and I think if nobody goes, there are a couple of reasons. One, the big one, they're not ready.
Mhm.
Another reason is there are many choices,
Yeah.
and maybe it's not the activity of the day. So I'll say, okay, nobody's going to that table where you created this opportunity for them, but were they engaged in busy other places?
Mhm.
So if they're engaged and busy, we'll just leave it and leave it. And if they still don't go after several days or maybe a week, then, we'll add a different element. The teacher might say during their gathering time, like, oh, I wanted to make sure you guys knew that these materials, and show them the basket, are on the table over there. So if you think of something you'd like to do with them, you could visit that tomorrow or later on today. And maybe just point it out. Maybe they just haven't seen it. Um,
Mhm.
Something like clothespins and tongue depressors, the wide craft sticks.
Mhm.
We'll put those out on the table. So there's an example, and say, like, pass them out so everybody can hold them at gathering time and say, oh, what do you notice about this? What does it remind you of? Kind of spark some interest in them, maybe. What do you think you could do with them? And talk to the children and then say, oh, well, you know what? If you want to try your ideas out, they're on the table over there after gathering time. And they'll be there for a few days. And we just leave things out as long as one child is using it. Now, we can do that now because our outdoor classroom is connected for our preschoolers to the indoor classroom, and we have enough space. When I
Mhm.
taught in an isolated classroom in a more traditional setting, that would be a little bit hard, maybe. But another thing is, if they're not going to the thing you created, it's interesting to me, they might feel like there are too many rules for that.
Uh-huh.
You know what I
Uh-huh.
mean? Like, because what I find is once children realize that school environment is come in and jump in,
Mhm.
they rarely don't choose activities unless, like you said, they're just not developmentally ready for that, which
Mhm.
is totally fine. You just, like you said, put it away for a few months.
Right. Bring it
Right.
back
And back
out.
up, because I'll think, like, okay, what skills was that going to be nurturing? And where can we go, a step before that for an
Mhm.
activity that can nurture similar skills or the same ones. Right.
Mhm.
So, and when children do this, it's so awesome. I had this one little guy who ran inside to me and said, while I was teaching one day, and he ran inside and said, I need a bunch of those things. And I said, oh, tell me more about them. I knew what he meant, but I said, tell me more about them. What are they made of? He said, they're made of wood. And I said, what does this mean? They open and close. And I said, oh, how do they open and close? You squeeze them. And I said, oh, so something made of wood that you squeeze to open and close it. I think I know what you're talking about. And I pulled the clothespins off the shelf and I showed them to him. And I said, is this what you need? And he said, yes. And I said, okay, how many? And he said, 34. I said, okay. So we counted out 34, and he ran off into the outdoor classroom. I have no idea what he did with them. No idea. We found them for weeks, scattered about, but that wasn't the point. The point
Right.
was his idea was honored. There was so much rich learning in the play of that. I need these. Oh, describe them, the language, the problem solving for how do I explain this, the counting, and just honoring, like, my ideas matter and they're important. And also, we don't really obsess over the rest of it. Then we just let him go. Like,
Right.
now we have 6 teachers, so I was inside. So I don't, that's why I really don't know what happened. And I did say to some of the outdoor teachers after that, what did he end up doing with those? And someone, had a little insight. And then eventually they all scattered all over the classroom outside. So, but they know that being ready means when they have an idea, they can come to us and say, what about that? And that
Mhm.
is so amazing. And it makes your planning so
Mhm.
beautiful because you're ready. And you had asked, how do we have time? Right. Which
Mhm.
is such a good question. And, every other school I've worked in, really, my time to come in was like 15 minutes before the children arrived. And then the
Mhm.
children left and I was off 15 minutes after the children left. So that is one thing we build into our teachers' day. They come an hour before the children and they stay an hour after.
There
And
we
I
go.
think those of us who are in leadership, who are running programs, et cetera, we need to be aware of that, just really cognizant that the teachers need that time. It doesn't just happen. and they still go above and beyond because teachers are cut from a different cloth, right? But we do give them that space and time. It still gets filled somehow, some way. But yeah, but one of their expectations is that everything you possibly can set up before you leave is set up before you leave for the morning of the next day, because you never know what's going to happen. So the morning time should be for fresh paint you need to put out because it would have dried out overnight. The morning time should just be for tweaking something, planning something for the next season or the next, because we don't say we're going to do this for a week or 2 weeks. We say, okay, this is what we're doing. And then here are all of our ideas for large motor that are in queue. And you just kind of layer them in for whichever area of development. And that's, of course, in our preschool. In our kindergarten, it looks a little bit different, not entirely, but a little bit. But anyway, so they get the activities ready for the next, the materials for the next activity ready. That's ideal. That's
Well,
ideal.
and I think what's beautiful about that is that sometimes teachers have planning time, and their planning time is during nap time when they're supervising
Right.
children, or their planning time is 30 minutes a week instead of 2 hours a day.
Right. I know it's so hard. It's so hard. And another thing we do actually is we pay all of our teachers 2 hours a week outside of school for planning, because we know they're thinking about it. We know that they're, and so they're documenting. That's a big responsibility we all have, right? To document the growth of the children. But, I think that when it comes to those things, as leaders in programs, schools, childcare centers, preschools, whatever, anybody working with children, that time with children, you need to be on and present and focused on the children 100%.
And here's how I think other people can do it. So I'm going to sort of close this out, but you can reallocate what you're paying for that's not developmentally aligned with where children are. So if you're purchasing a curriculum that someone else wrote who knows nothing about your children,
Right.
doesn't understand their cultures, their language, their background, their experiences, don't buy that curriculum. If you're, and you can use that to help your teachers plan and provide professional development around the things that Jennifer's talking to us about. If you have purchased an online assessment system that's aligned with the curriculum that you bought or not aligned. If your teachers are doing running records, taking photographs, documenting, doing the displays of children's thinking and work, that's your assessment.
Right. Absolutely. Yes.
And you don't have to pay all that money.
I know. Well, also get rid of the electronics in the classroom. Get rid of the screens.
Please.
I mean, the amount of money that is spent on that, which is completely absurd to have in the early childhood classroom, there is no benefit. I'm sorry, there's zero relevant benefit to that. That is a parent pleaser, and our job is to educate those parents about why they're not there. But that's a huge money savings,
Every day, because I'm a huge person about technology does not belong in any classroom. Every single day, there's a new article that comes out about the dangers of using technology with children. Every single day. New York
it's not
Times,
a joke. I mean,
Washington Post, the Surgeon General, every single day. And so just getting that stuff and all the maintenance that you have to do and all the apps you have to buy and all the upkeep, give that to your teachers and then provide training for them on being ready for children, not children being ready for the classroom.
Right.
Oh, that was amazing. So I do want to tell you guys, you can still access the town hall that Jennifer and her teachers did. It was incredible. And if you want to email me, I'll send you the link to it. But it's in the YouTube channel under town halls. And I think I just redid it just recently. Like maybe over Labor Day, had it recorded in a Porch Play Chat that was a little longer. So it is the most amazing town hall on what you need to be doing with children. It was fabulous. And you get to see some of their program, which is also fabulous.
Mhm.
All right, so I'm going to close this out. Any last thoughts?
No, I just think that your number one thing to be ready is to know what children need and to be able to be flexible with what you think is going to happen and embrace that, because it is the most beautiful thing when you can know what they need, provide an environment where they can touch things as much as they need to, they want, and then be present with them.
Yes.
And that's life. It's generational work right there. I mean, what we
Yeah.
are all doing with children has a generational impact. And I think that the best thing we can do to serve children well is good trainings, read the good books, stay in organizations like the IPA, and follow all the resources that are there for children need play. And what that really looks like, because it's easy to say that, but we've got to blaze a trail. So you've just got to be responsive to the children.
You
And
do. And
yeah.
just for Bev Boz's, the children are the curriculum.
Hmm.
Don't have to spend money on it. So
Yes, we say that
just
all the time.
all the time.
Mhm.
So I mean, this has truly been incredible. And I think what's so interesting is we had a person on a Porch Play Chat a little bit earlier, uh, and I'm going to see if I can get them to run right after each other because it was really interesting. She's a person that's very much into literacy and language, and she's talked about everything that children need to do physically to be ready for holding a pencil later. And it was big body play. It was outside time. It was um, being able to move in the classroom and having space and time for the children. And you needed to look at their bodies, and their bodies would tell you what it was they needed and what their bodies needed. It was beautiful, and it will be such a great partner with this one. So stay right there while I close this out.
Okay.
To learn more about IPA USA, please visit our website at ipausa.org. And until next time, keep on playing.